Hello and welcome in. My name is Snappy Sims, aka Sarah, aka Snappy Streams on Twitch. This is my cheeseburger build, and I'm just starting off by creating one giant circular room and then putting those on top of one another. Then I have a roof here, which I'm going to change the pitch of to make it look more like a burger bun. Then I'm just grabbing some wallpaper that also looks bun colored for the bottom floor, and for the second floor I'm adding some ground beef or patty colored texture. I changed that to brick later so it's a bit more textured, but that one's just a placeholder. I add the room trim, that green room trim, to look like lettuce. Don't worry, it gets better. And I also am putting on some of those seasons banners to make the cheese around the top. I add some of these romantic garden floral pieces to add a bit more realism to that lettuce, and now I'm adding a tomato using the Cool Kitchen Stuff pack cutting board sized up a little bit and placed using move objects. And here's where I spent some time trying to figure out how I wanted to do sesame seeds on the top, so I ended up going with the seasons decoration here. Just sizing those down and bringing them up using the 9 key and then placing them using Alt. Trying to decide which sign looks better, adding a little open sign, and then I'm going into the layout. I changed this up a couple of times because I tried to make a bathroom in the middle and then the actual kitchen in the top right there. So just getting into the kitchen part now, I'm adding the mandatory things from Dine Out pack that are needed for any restaurant lot. Adding some of those stainless steel cabinets and some of the Get to Work fridges that just look a bit more industrial. And then I put a bar down here just to make it easier in case drinks were being served. So this is a bit more realism there. Took me forever to figure out what sort of tile to use in here because the circular walls don't work well with tiles. So this one I just went with these sort of subway tiles, so it's pretty easy on the eyes. Then I decided to add some windows there, as you can see, just for a little bit more light inside, and I made them red so they'd match with that tomato exterior. I wanted to add a bit more prep space, so I added these island counters, and then I put a little vent in. And then I realized I forgot a door, so I put a door in. Here I'm just trying to figure out the layout of this bathroom. It jump cuts here because I had to make it a bit bigger to add these stalls in. And I wanted to make this one ketchup and mustard themed, and then I ended up changing my mind a little bit and adding a bit more green in, but it's all sort of red, green, yellow, white, black, diner colors that kind of look like a hamburger. For the flooring, I chose the new one from high school years. Well, I guess it's not that new. Just so that it has those edge pieces and those corner pieces of the tile, and I chose sort of the same color scheme, the yellows, the greens, the whites. This green changes, but I still go with a green there for those sinks because I wanted it to be like reminiscent of relish or something, or I guess pickles. As for the flooring, I just went for a classic black and white tile diner flooring. Might be a little bit busy on the eyes, but in my opinion, it's just worth it for realism, and it's fun. I chose this red tile for the wallpaper around the outside, and then this sort of like brick, painted brick for the center where you get checked in, seen by a hostess, that sort of thing. And this is where I decide on the changing the color of the inside of the cabinets in the washroom. I think I cut it out, but I changed that to match the host station. And here I'm just adding that waiter station as well as a to-go order station. So this is where you would pick up your order if you were in real life to have ordered it to go online. And then I just wanted to add a little waiting area here, so I put these semicircle, or I guess quarter circle couches. For the entrance, it took a really long time to figure out what kind of rug I wanted to use, but I wanted the whole entrance to look pretty welcoming. I added a bit more windows here just because I wanted there to be a bit more natural light inside, although we don't get much of it, so sorry about that. As for the diner tables and chairs that I wanted to use, these base game update ones actually have a black marble top to them that matches really well with the floor. So I added those in along with some of those vintage glamour red chairs because I thought they looked pretty cool. I would have liked to have done sort of a bar stool type situation, but it did not work with the height of it. And then I added these corner booths because I figured booths would be great, but it's hard to do on a curved wall, so I had only really the interior walls to do it. So just one over there in the corner. And here's the fun part where I just get to decorating. So it's really busy, it takes a long time. You're gonna see a couple jump cuts because I just went all over the place, covered every single wall I possibly could with things to make it look like one of those old retro diners that just has 1,000,001 pictures because they've been open since the dawn of time. So there's sort of an assortment of interesting paintings and pictures, and I even later add some pictures of like maybe old people that have actually been there, famous people. Working with these curved walls and adding art to it was very difficult because a lot of times it just stuck out and didn't actually look like it was hanging off the wall properly, so I had to do a bit of finagling, but it all worked out pretty well in the end, if I do say so myself. I tried to keep it in sort of a color scheme that looks purposefully busy to the eye, but not too crazy so that it would be bogging down your game or anything. And then I added like a little mirror down there just to make it look like a little star corner. This part I wanted to have a condiment station, so even though it's not like McDonald's level burger joint, it is still sort of a diner where you'd be able to self-serve yourself some of the condiments, maybe even get some salt and pepper. And also I handmade a bin that actually goes inside of the counter. It probably won't work because I put some debug items in there to make it look real, but it was fun to mess around with anyways. Then I add some waiter tablets and obviously some new lighting. And then I thought about having a sort of Instagrammable wall where people could take interesting photos in front of this old car front. So I added sort of a green wall with these cool little overhang things that are in the red and white swatch. And then I just want to add a bit of rugs underneath each of the places where people are eating, so each of those little tables and chairs. Coming back to the kitchen, I wanted to add a few more debug items here to add to the realism again, so just a couple of things like a meat mallet and a chopping board with veggies on it. And then of course some details like knives and cooking tools and pots and pans and things like that. So now we're going to be heading to the upstairs. So I tried to add some stairs that would make sense out here. Obviously it's going to clip a little bit with the other decorations that I have, but just turn a blind eye, it's fine. Up here, my whole idea was I wanted to make it like a bar, lounge, or any sort of hangout spot that would be really cool to be in. So a lot of circular little couches in the back there, a lot of like 50s inspired diner stuff. I chose the same wallpaper and flooring just for consistency, and then you'll see I make sort of an interesting bar thing in the middle. So this is the seating area right as you enter. This kind of changes a little bit, but just to get started here. So I add 2 bars back to back in the center, and then I add some of the countertops, the island countertops in the middle there to make a full square almost. And that's where I really tie in those 50s bar stool aesthetic. Here I add a little gate so that people who don't work there wouldn't be able to get behind it. Again, for realism, probably not good for gameplay. I toy around with having some sort of spandrel in the middle there in a giant square. I'm imagining that you'd have like mugs hanging off of that or something like that, but I don't have any items like that in my debug, so I just left it sort of blank. But I think that looks pretty cool. I had a little jukebox here, and then I wanted to make sort of a fake stage. Again, the walls are a little strange, so I kind of had to mess around with it using a tiny fence, and I wanted to raise it up, of course, using a platform tool, but because it's a circular room, it was not going to work. So I kind of made a fake one and separated it out by having the fence there and then adding the microphone, the guitar, and some rugs there so it would cover it up. And And then I found this swatch of that like wall light, and it literally has a record on it. So I thought that was really cool and I wanted to include it. And then for the sort of lounge area, so we have these 3 circular settees or like couches, and they look so cool if I do say so myself. I have little round rugs under it, little round tables in the middle of each one of them. The bowling stuff pack, or game pack, I guess, I'm not sure actually. The bowling stuff surfaces to put little plants on. I had another seating area as well. I wanted to add a little dance floor here in case people were watching the live music and wanted to dance. Didn't really fit anywhere else, so hopefully that's not too cumbersome or strange. And then to fit the requirements of, I think it was bar, I needed to add a TV, so I added this old debug TV from like Eco Lifestyle, I think the one that you can get from dumpster diving, because I thought it was cute. And then I added some mats, of course, again for realism. A set of lights, and then I wanted to theme each of these little lounge areas. So I put these dividers in just to signify that each of them would be like a different area for you to sit in, where you could still sort of see through them, but enough privacy that you could kind of have private conversations. Added a mirror, some more decor. Oh, and back there, of course, are the arcade machines that we have. I do wish we had more, but it is what it is. And then I realized we didn't have any windows, and I was like, well, maybe we should add some windows. So I went around and added brown windows that are brown on the outside and white on the inside so that they would blend in a bit more with the burger patty that I have on the second floor. Adding some neon lights here because I think they look really cute. So this is where I leaned into the theme part of each of these lounge pieces. So this middle one here is like a bowling theme. I got pieces from the bowling stuff kit. And then over here on the right, I have like a movie star themed one or a Hollywood one. So I have some movie posters. I have the one of like Marilyn Monroe and all that jazz. Then this one is going to be the music-centric one because they're the closest to the stage, and I figured they could have some old jazz photos and their own personal speaker. I added a few more photos around this so-called stage area that I made just to make it a bit more visually interesting. I really wanted to use this corner cabinet somewhere that you see in the bottom left there, so I just slotted that in as well. And then I decided to do an outdoor area here for like a dumpster or a bin, which would be mostly for people who work there to take out the trash. I didn't want to risk putting actual flooring down just because of the circular walls, so I just did some terrain paint there and then added the fence around the outside of it. And this to me is like where the workers would go and dump out any of the trash that was in the diner. So we're getting into the outside now, into the landscaping, before we go into our final tour. So I spent kind of a long time here with the terrain paint, making little pathways and stuff like that, and then I actually outlined them with, well, as you can see, it didn't work. I outlined them with fences, but eventually they just don't meet the circular wall, so I decided to cover that with plants and rocks, because what else are you gonna do? So I filled that in with some dirt, and then I wanted to use these pieces from Island Living that come in those perfect squares and triangles, so I can fill out that space to start with, and then I added a few more plants in there from Base Game, just to make it filled in. I mean, I think it looks nice in public lots like a diner to have a little bit of landscaping like this. Not too pristine, but also not too messy. So I added some rocks there to sort of cover that up. I mean, if you squint, you can't see it. And then I kind of take it an entirely insane direction. So I added a plate. I wanted it to be on a circular platform so that it would look like it was on a plate, but it didn't work even after I worked on it for a really long time. So what I did instead is I duplicated a million of these little debug, whatever these stones are, and then I hand placed them around the entire outside of this giant circle that I'd put in terrain paint, just to make it look sort of like a plate. Does it look kind of dumb? Maybe a little bit, but honestly, I just had a fun time doing it and trying to perfect the circle. It doesn't look perfect, so just pretend it does. But anyways, so let's get back to the real landscaping after that. We added some bushes at the front here, just to border that walkway that gets up to that second floor, and I, of course, add a bit more dirt in so it makes more sense. The final one that's uploaded on the gallery looks even a little bit cleaner because I think I forgot to put dirt on that side in this video, but don't worry, it comes back when it's on the gallery. I wanted a little bit of outdoor seating, nothing too crazy, but just some, you know, umbrella covered little spots in case you wanted to dine outside. Again, I added a few more of those little square stones And then I found this sign that has a burger actually on it, and I was like, that's perfect. So I put it on a little platform. It's a little crunchy. I think it's just a debug item, but it's fine. I think it's from the base game, or Strangerville. So I wanted to add a parking lot because even though we don't have cars in The Sims, rest in peace, I love using the debug cars just for a bit of realism. Take a shot every time she says realism, but anyways. So you use a tiny invisible fence to make the little parking spots themselves. And then over here on the end, I just add one that kind of looks like a do not park here, maybe emergency vehicles only or something. Grabbed a bunch of different cars, just put them out there. And I also added some bikes into that most close by one. And here we are for the tour. So as you can see, that brick, it was changed for the upstairs, and we're just coming into the first floor now. So unfortunately, ignore the roof. I tried to do the ceiling paint. It did not work in the circular room. I still haven't figured that out, but you know, it looks pretty good even with a white roof. So here you see that sort of entryway. This is where you get checked in to sit down. Looking inside the little bathroom that we have, I think it's pretty cute and usable. I mean, there's nothing much to it. It's just a bathroom, but I think it looks fine. And then we have all the million pieces of artwork, which is great. Anywhere you can sit and chat with people, have your dinner, have your lunch. All the famous people, like I said, the old portraits that you maybe could imagine have signatures on them. I even added a few dirty plates above that dishwasher there. And here's the prep station. So this has all the requirements to be a restaurant, a lounge, and a bar, so you can choose which one you'd like. If you're, if you don't want it to be a restaurant, that's totally fine too. This is that back area again, and then we swing out to the front. Sorry for the low res when I move quickly, that's just my game. So we come in here to the top floor. The ceiling worked better up here. I'm not exactly sure why, but I used that one from bowling again because it has a really good like linoleum look to it, which I think would be a good ceiling tile. So we have our little arcade over on the right, and then we get back towards the lounge here, again with the little Hollywood lounge, and then the bowling one in the middle. I just like the mid-century stuff. I really used a lot of that mid-century tag under the styles, which is really fun. And the stage. So here we just have a top-down view. We have a bird's eye view of both of the levels. As you can see, it is a burger and it is a restaurant. And I just think it's a bit of fun. So thank you all for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you liked it, like the video, and you can go and follow me on Twitch at snappy_streams. It will be in my description as well. And that's all I have for you today. Bye-bye.